Hello! I've done some big testing on Salvage to explain how it works, because they made a change to it in Season 1, and mainly to find out how the flashlights compare, if they're even different, because they don't say, despite some having more downsides. The short answer is yes. It seems like they get better as you go down the list. I recommend using the highest level flashlight you have unlocked. For the long answer, there's quite a bit to unpack. First, I want to acknowledge Matthew on Reddit, who I know did some preliminary testing a while back, so I originally canceled my plans to look into it, but this was quite a small sample, as he admits of course, and that made for some very misleading results, so he also followed up with a much bigger test later on, but I still got some very different results, and I'll come back and compare later to explain why I think that is. Anyway, he did encourage people to expand the sample, so I did. I played 40 games, 10 per attachment, all solo, of course, and each game going to round 26. When that milestone popped up, I took the screenshot and was done. I made sure to factor in all the upgrades I bought, of course, and I upgraded in a very consistent way. I stayed in the starting area to round 11, so I built up about 30k to run through, do everything for the power, get my perks, upgrade my gun to blue. All the details don't matter, but I kept it consistent to always end with a purple gun and tier 2 armor after having found tier 1 on the ground. So I knew what salvage to add back on to the total count. If I ever needed to rebuy a self-res, I just made sure to note that down. I never bought elemental pop or applied any ammo mods, just in case that could mess with what got the kill. I wanted to make sure all the kills were from the weapon. Naturally, I tested a wide range of different weapons. The gun type did not seem to matter at all. Same with the range you kill from, in case you thought you needed to physically be shining the flashlight on the thing you kill. No, don't think so. I was careful to pick up every salvage. I killed things in a pretty controlled way to not miss any, always in the map of course, and I didn't randomly kill stuff while running through the map. No doubt a couple drops slipped through, but nothing significant. I also avoided nukes, of course, not a huge deal because nukes don't count as eliminations on the scoreboard, and I did normalize the drops around my kills. I needed to because ending on round 26 didn't always mean the exact same number of kills. Sometimes I got an extra dog round, which meant 50 or so fewer kills. Also, I'm sure some zombies died to play count gas or whatever because the kills vary a little bit, but that's fine. Like, it also meant nukes weren't a big deal. I accidentally picked up, I think, 4 the whole time, but I still didn't want to clear a wave, since salvage drop rates do change round to round, like how clearly rare salvage is more common in later rounds. Method explained. Alright, here's this ugly page, but it gets the point across. Part 1 of the flashlight results. Keep in mind, all the salvage numbers I'm using are the number of drops. So 1 common drop, the green, is worth 50 common salvage, while the blue rare drop is worth 10 rare salvage. So that's why you have so much more common, even though the number of them dropping gets to be pretty similar in later rounds. This is just counting the number of drops. So the laser was just a control, it has no effect on salvage. The mounted flashlight, an early unlock, was a clear jump up from that, more so for common, and that trend does continue. The Tiger team got a decent amount more common, but hardly any more rare. And finally, the Ember sighting point, another solid step up for both types of salvage. However, this doesn't tell the whole story. These attachments are actually better than this, and I'll explain why. Like it says at the top, these numbers are including the salvage bonus you get at every milestone round. That's the change they made in Season 1, to give everyone a more guaranteed, even amount of salvage throughout the match. And they reduced the world drop rate a bit to compensate for that. I looked into it, and it took me a shocking amount of time to remember to be watching my salvage before each milestone, but here's what I found. Starting at the first milestone round after round 10, it gave 100 of each type of salvage, but remember I'm writing that in terms of number of drops, and you can see how that amount progresses at each milestone. At round 31, the rare plateaus at 250, and the common goes to 500 and seems to stop there. I didn't need to test any further because that was consistent with what they said. The patch notes didn't really fully describe it, but it does say that it stays at that amount after round 30. Plus, it doesn't matter very much. The number of kills in those rounds will be making the bonus less impactful, and salvage should be mattering less to you at that point anyway, with your guns probably upgraded. Anyway, that's outside of the scope of the round 26 testing I was doing. Went to that because it's a pretty efficient round goal for grinding challenges. And if we just look at that range, that's a total of 20 common drops and 70 rare drops given directly for free over the course of the game, completely unaffected by flashlights. So if I subtract all the free milestone salvage, these are the new numbers we get, making those flashlights seem quite a bit better, especially in regards to the rare, which I think matters more. And I think this is much closer to how well the flashlights are actually helping you when it comes to increasing world drops. But in a way, the original numbers are still actually what matter, because the milestone salvage is a thing, meaning this is how much the attachment is actually helping you. If I stopped in an earlier round, it would be helping even less, and if I went into a very deep late round, then it would be getting closer to that true world drop percentage, with there being so many more kills compared to the plateaued milestone bonuses. So I have no problem with that update to salvage. I think it results in more rare salvage to go around, at least in the rounds where it actually matters. It's easier to upgrade your gun to gold faster, picture, and I guess it spreads the wealth. If one person has a spot that gets way more kills, or if you're too lazy to pick up all your salvage, this will guarantee you still get a decent amount. But the update did have the side effect of nerfing flashlights, since the world drops were reduced to compensate. Hope that explains the Salvage update and shows both ways of looking at how good the flashlights are. They're really not anything crazy, like double drops. Like, to compare the Ember sighting point, the best attachment, to having no attachment, well, there was plenty of RNG involved in the Salvage world drops. Like, you can pick out the best laser games compared to the worst Ember games, and clearly RNG can make up the difference. Their bell curves overlapped a fair amount, but the longer term averages tell a more clear story, and I could match up every laser game to a better Ember game. It's not like it wasn't clear which one was better. So to comment on the sample size, like, how accurate do I think these numbers are? Well, a bigger sample would always be better. It took several of these games for a consistent picture to start to emerge. But I am pretty happy with this sample. The numbers could change if I kept going, but I think the rough result is pretty close. 40 games to round 26 is a fair amount of zombies. I got 12 gold guns while doing this. There's one more thing I tested and can show here. I figured with one gun I would document the changes every 5 rounds, but I ended up only doing it for the laser and mounted flashlight because there was clearly too much RNG to draw any meaningful comparison from a short 5-round window. But what this does help show is the clear trend of how rare salvage is extremely rare early on, as you would know from playing. Looking at the version without the milestone bonuses makes that more clear. You can see the number of kills isn't increasing exponentially or anything, but the rare salvage really starts to pick up. After round 18-ish, you should start to see more rare drops than the common. In those first 10 rounds though, you can see how extremely RNG dependent the rare drops are because of how they are really rare. Here with no attachment, I got 12. Then with the mounted flashlight, which I'm quite confident is about 20% better, I only got 6. It's cut in half. That is how the RNG be in that small of a sample. So I said I'd compare my results to what Matthew saw in his salvage testing. Science is all about building off each other after all, and I figure anyone who saw that might wonder why there's a difference. I won't look at the initial small test, because that was super small, and saw stuff like the Tiger team hurting your rare salvage. He did a much bigger test here, looks like 80 games, very dedicated, but the problem is, it looks like these are all only to round 10. So about 17,000 kills total, which is good, but more importantly, like I was just saying, the rare salvage drops are very rare in those early rounds. That's a big deal, and this was after season 1, so he was including the milestone salvage at round 10, which meant a good chunk of his rare salvage came from that and not the world drops. So it makes sense that his rare salvage percentages appeared to be very low, such that it wasn't clear that he was even helping at all. So I do think going to later rounds was important to get the full picture, to have rare drops be more common, and also to get more kills faster. Mad respect for having the patience to play to round 10 that many times though, holy moly. In conclusion, as far as flashlight advice goes, if you're using a gun that can have a flashlight, it's totally worth using the highest one you can. You may as well. The Tiger team over the mounted is debatable, but no big deal either way. The sprint to fire time is a non-issue, but also having no flashlight is not the biggest deal, especially after the Season 1 update. So whenever you want to ditch your flashlight gun for something off the wall or out of the box instead of upgrading yours all the way from red, well, that'll save you a lot of salvage, so it makes complete sense, unless you're going for a very high round or only working on one gun for challenges and you want to keep your perfect attachment build. That also means if you want to start off with the combat knife, the clear, most convenient choice for a starting weapon to one-shot to round 14 and get guaranteed full crit points, yeah, you can. You're not missing out too much by not having a flashlight, especially in those early rounds when rare is so rare. If you do want a flashlight starting weapon though, my favorite would have to be akimbo pistols, because that Ember sighting point also helps with hipfire. They're very powerful, even unpacked, got lots of reserve ammo with a quick reload, good movement, so aside from the knife, and obviously working on challenges, I think that's what I'll be using. Well, that's all for Salvage. It's always fun to do some big sample size testing, see the patterns start to emerge. Of course, it was easy to have the patience for this when I was going to be playing lots of zombies anyway. I figured I may as well just follow a method and be tracking something while working on camos. And I have another type of long-term test in the works, but I am going home for Christmas, be gone for a few days. Merry Christmas, happy holidays and all that. Glad I could get this done before leaving. Got through all those games just in time. And when I get back, I'll continue working on the other top secret project that isn't that secret. You could probably guess. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.